Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend, a good Sunday today. Just going to share with you guys some news that Plarium dropped for us today. Usually Plarium's pretty quiet on the weekends, so it's a little bit surprising, but nevertheless, they did give us some news today, so I'm going to share it with you guys. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, it looks like there's going to be 4 days of progressive events starting on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Each one of these days will last, or each one of these events will last 1 day, 24 hours. So right now, this is day 1. It looks like the theme will be based around faction guardians and their faction champions. So day 1, we have a Ragaz Wild King to start. So a Ragaz is an orc here. So you can kind of see from the list, we have a bunch of orcs up for grabs here. A Ragaz is a bit of an interesting champion. He's pretty much a support champion. So he can basically empower your team to do some extra stuff. In most cases here is damage. He does bring provoke and strengthen for your whole team as well. He does bring a bit of healing as well. And he brings this kind of synergy where your team does more damage the more damaged they are. So it's an interesting setup, but we haven't really seen this guy get really used to his full potential yet, I think. Nevertheless, being a faction unity champion, he is pretty rare, so that's not too surprising that we haven't fully utilized his kit yet. But here he is, a Ragaz Wild King, up for grabs on day 1. Also up for grabs here is Bells the Reckoner. Bells Reckoner was just a recent guarantee champion from the Deck of Fate. He's not a bad champion. I did playtest him. If you guys are interested in seeing him, make sure you guys check out my playtest video. But basically, he's a damage dealer with a damage dealing passive, but he doesn't deal insane amounts of damage, at least from what I tested. The best thing about him is actually placing this AoE block buffs and leech. The ability to do so really helps you out in Hydra if you need a champion to do block buffs that isn't like Ugo, for example. So he's not bad. He can deal a little bit of damage and he can fill in your debuff rolls for your Hydras. Not bad champion. So moving on from Bells, like I said, it's going to be very faction based. So whatever faction unity is up for grabs, they're going to put up a lot of their faction champions. So the next champion up for grabs is actually King Garog. Again, King Garog, I did do a showcase not too long ago. He was updated and he hits pretty hard. He's got an A1 stun. He's got an A2 quad hit here, and it actually hits pretty hard. And he's an AoE here as well. Passive that boosts his stats and damage. The thing with King Garog is that he kind of just hits. He has no built-in survivability. Yeah, he kind of just hits hard, and that's about it. And I mean, you can definitely find champions that hit hard, but if he's your hardest hitting champion on your account, you know, he might actually be useful. Either way, after his buff and test, my play test with him, I was a little bit surprised and kind of impressed with this guy's overall damage, but his general utility is not, you know, sky high or anything like that, just because he kind of just hits, which is fine if you need a champion to do so. So moving on, we actually have Matriarch Zarguna. Here we go, Matriarch Zarguna HP. She's basically a support champion here. Double hit heal with provoke. Has the increased duration of all decreased duration of all allied debuffs. So a bit of a cleanse here, brings taunt and continuous taunt and unkillable on a 4-turn, also bringing continuous heals. She also brings team shield buff here, and a passive that basically mitigates some damage for your whole team. She's basically just a support champion that tries to keep your team alive, gives your team a bit more sustain. Not a bad champion, but honestly, not an overly impressive kit. Moving on from Zarguna, we have where is this guy? There you go. Nogdar. Nogdar has a very interesting kit here. He has the HP swap. He also has a passive that revives him if he's the first guy to basically die. He's a damage dealer here. Really crazy base attack and all that stuff. I've seen him used a couple times in live arena. It's kind of funny. But yeah, he's an interesting champion, could make him work, but honestly, still not like super mainstream or anything. And if you guys are just coming out, you know, of the early game, you might not want to invest in a champion that doesn't have like guaranteed value. For this guy, he's, you know, cool, interesting champion maybe to mix around with in in arena if you want to have some fun because of his HP swap, and it's kind of like funny passive that keeps him alive. He's a little bit annoying for your enemies, but otherwise I would probably just leave this guy in the vault for now. All right, moving on to the Void Orcs up for grabs. I recently pulled this champion, and it's going to be Raka Viletide. She actually has really good value, especially in Chimera nowadays. She brings the increased attack and shield with a cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown that's super strong. And then she has a team revive on the 4-turn, pretty standard, 50% HP, 50% turn meter, places block debuffs as well. You can also use the block debuffs by itself without having to revive anyone, which is pretty good utility. Her A1 brings a heal. Her passive is really nice because it brings turn meter and healing as well. She's a good champion overall. Definitely sees, could see a bit more play in Chimera. She's a general good carry as well, bringing the cleanse plus attack as well. Her base stats for a support is where I'm probably going to gripe against because it's a little bit low, to be honest. She has higher than usual attack for a support champion, which seems unnecessary, and her HP is a little bit on the low side, which is a bit of a negative against her. Otherwise, she's a very good champion. Our next champion up for grabs is actually a champion that I love and transformed my account when I got him. The Mighty Warlord. Very good, especially he's just good everywhere, to be honest. He has the full lockout, full skill cooldown lockout, and then he also brings a chance to turn meter deplete, which is really strong on a 4-turn cooldown. Brings a little bit of protection for your team, block debuff and shields. Good base stats overall. Great champion, still used in live arena and all that stuff. I still use him quite a bit. If you guys pull him, he's gonna be one of the few like lockout champions that are still viable. Obviously with mythicals in the game and stuff, they don't get affected by the lockouts as badly, but he's still very good. He's gonna be up for grabs as well on day 1. All right, moving on to day 2. Like I said, each one of these events will last 24 hours, so basically 1 day each. So moving on to day 2, we have the Lizardmen, and of course the best faction unity champion, I believe, so far. We have Teox, Legate Teox. Although Legate Teox, he was really insane before all the Hydra fixing, unfixing, fixing, breaking stuff happening. Teox is still extremely strong in Chimera, and he's still extremely strong in Hydra, mainly because of how powerful his A1 is. So his A1 double hit, and then the ally with the highest crit damage on your team, so you can, obviously tune your team so that you know which champion is going in with Teox. Attacks with him, and then the damage dealt by this champion and the ally joining the attack will increase by 10% for each debuff on the target. So if you're, the damage from this can be absolutely nuts, and it can drive, the scores up on a lot of teams, Hydra or Chimera. So he's really good. And then if you don't want to use that, you can actually use his A2 or A3, and he can be really good with just those as well. Teox hits really good, but this just sends him over the moon in terms of boosting your team's overall performance. He has great faction unity buffs here: ignore, strengthen, ally protection, shield. Also has this block revive on the 2 faction bonus here, and then it also deals more damage on the 3 faction bonus. Here he has a 25% chance to counterattack, and then decrease the damage this champions receive from enemies under debuffs. All allies are immune to sheep. So yeah, it's really strong. So you can basically have a team that brings a lot of debuffs, which powers up Teox, and they are all immune to sheep, which is really good. So it just has a great kit that synergizes really well together. It's based off of debuffs, and he brings tons of damage to power your team. He's definitely one of the top prizes for the faction unity champions, at least. Moving on, we have, again, sticking with the Lizardmen, we have Krokmar here. Krokmar I pulled, sometime maybe like a year and a half ago. He brings a lot of AoEs. So if you, if you're crit capping him, he's going to do an AoE on his A1. He's actually a damage dealer. He's an HP based damage dealer. But from my testing, he doesn't hit particularly hard. The best thing about him is actually he powers up your team with the crit rate buff, crit damage buff. It's a big one. It's a 3-turn buff. He can protect himself, so self-sustain with another AoE on his A2. But his passive is what really makes him really good. So when this champion attacks, decrease the target's attack or defense by 5%, as well as accuracy or resistance by 5%, stacking up to about a 30% decrease. The thing is, it's one or the other, so it's not both. So it's attack or defense, it's accuracy or resistance. And I believe it's based off of which stat the enemy has the highest. So if they have higher attack, then the attack will come down. If they have a higher accuracy, then the accuracy will come down, for example. But yeah, it's only one or the other. It's not all four of them, for example. But that's probably the best part about him. You kind of slap him in a curse set with some damage, and then you throw him in Hydra, and then he can kind of make your Hydra teams do a little bit better, survive a bit better, do a little bit more damage. But otherwise, he's not too bad, but he's not too crazy of a champion either. Next up, we have Nekmothar. Now, this champion is actually kind of crazy. Ever since he was like a guarantee champion from Sacreds way back in the day. I remember when I saw this guy's kit, I was just like over the moon. I'm like, wow, this guy is so insane for Hydra. And he definitely delivered. He was one of those guaranteed champions. When you saw his kit, he absolutely delivered. He brings everything to the table against Hydra. He brings increased speed, team turn meter, AoE decreased speed, AoE leech, and then he brings AoE decreased attack, and he brings speed in all or battle. He's awesome against Hydra, where he just powers. He's like the engine that powers your team. He's like the guy you want to build the team around. And then after that, he's actually shown even more value in Chimera, where he does that same thing. But in Chimera, having the turn meter boost is even more important, because getting tons and tons of turns against the Chimera is actually a huge benefit. Whereas against Hydra right now, after all the fixing and unfixing, the extra turns don't necessarily mean that you're actually doing damage anymore. So yeah, but with Chimera, Nekmothar's value has definitely shot up. So he's definitely worth, an extra look if you have him or pick them up. After that, we got the old goat here. We got Dracomorph. Dracomorph bringing multi-hit, bringing the quad hit poison, and then he's bringing a touchless weaken and defense down. He hits decently hard. He's still really strong damage dealer, like especially a single target. So for example, against Clan Boss, he does insanely well still. Brings some support to boost up your team's overall damage. And then he just hits super hard with his A1 and then his poisons for additional damage as well. So not as used as often anymore, but still one of the better Clan Boss single target damage dealers. Up next, we also have an old fusion. We have Pythion, one of the better cleanser plus revive supports. Also shown additional value in places like Chimera as well, because the cleansing is really important. He has an A1 heal, which is really good. It's easy to stack up Pythion with tons of HP so that his A1 actually does a significant heal. And then he brings a team-wide revive with the strengthen as well. His passive is also really good at mitigating some incoming damage. And he has good base stats overall. He's a good champion. He was a fusion back in the day. Still one of the better fusions of all time. But he's going to be up for grabs as well. Moving on to the Void champions, we start with Sulfurion. I recently pulled this champion as well. Super insane champion. Brings the AoE HP burn, AoE activation, shields. Also brings a team revive here. And a passive here that basically protects and boosts your team a bit more. It gives your team healing as well as turn meter. And boosts himself as well for some increased speed. He's just a really, really strong support champion. And the fact that he's in the Lizardmen, just really makes the Lizardmen really, really strong, especially when you pair that with Legate, Teox, and teams that you can build around with these lizards. Very, very strong champion. He does a lot of damage as well. He can be used in arena, PvP, all sorts of stuff. Just great, great champion. And then lastly, the king of all the voids, in terms of the Lizardmen, probably is the Krisk, the Ageless. This guy never ages. He's always great in all content. He's best in PvE content, of course. He brings tons of debuffs, tons of buffs. A1 decreased speed, AoE, by the way. AoE, ally protection, continuous heal, plus a buff duration boost, 3-turn cooldown, by the way. And then he brings a 3-turn cooldown, AoE provoke, increased defense, increased speed. And then he has a passive here that passively applies decreased attack and decreased defense. Very, very insane champion. One of the best of all time. Ages like fine wine. And yeah, he's still relevant in all PvE content. In Arena, he's less so, just because he's kind of easier to deal with. Obviously, the debuffs hurt him a little bit. But you start off you get a big shield out of him. You could put him in, I don't know, whatever, protection stone skin, or I think for PvE, you're going to put him in hex gear, most likely. Maybe like I said, protection, maybe for Chimera. But there's a lot of ways to build him, a lot of ways to play him. He's good everywhere. Definitely a hype pull if you got him. And yeah, he rounds out day 2. Let's hit on to day 3 here. So day 3, we got Ogen Tribes. So keep in mind, like I said, guys, 24 hours per event. We got Ogen Tribes on day 3, starting with Vizog the Noxious. Very good champion overall. He brings poisons. He does activating poison HP burns. He does placing poisons here and HP burns. And then he does a team-wide increased attack and then increased duration of the enemy debuffs by 1 turn. Decreased duration of all ally debuffs by 1 turn. He's really good at basically doing damage through poisons and HP burn. He can activate it himself. The thing is, for him, when I was doing my testing on him, he really needs to gain some bonuses from having this faction ally stacking for him to to be more insane. Without the faction bonuses, he's kind of like, yeah, he's good, but he's not like insane levels. But Bizog with the faction allies are really, really good. He brings his own self-healing again. He brings increased speed as well. And then on this passive, he's going to gain some extra damage. So the HP burns and poisons dealing additional damage. This is when his kit really comes together and starts getting kind of crazy. But overall, if you got him, if you don't want to use him with Ogrins or anything, he's still a very solid champion by himself. Moving on to the next champion, we have Cracklin the Blacken. This champion has a double hit. He has a heal reduction on his A1. Also brings decreased accuracy, weaken, continuous heal on a 3-turn. And he brings reflect damage, continuous heal, and a bit of a restore 50% of the allies destroyed max HP. He's more of a champion catered to what I think is Fire Knight. It's not too bad in that regard with the multi-hit heal reduction and then the reflect damage, which can help break down the shield, for example. He's not a bad champion there. Maybe has a place with like Senna or something with the continuous heal synergy on his passive and his A3. But so far, like, his kit's kind of meh, not too exciting or anything like that. So let's move on. One of the more recent fusions we have Jeroboam here, Brugard. I haven't really used this guy. I went for him, I didn't really use him, but that's the way it goes. A1 double hit here has a decreased cooldown of random ally skill. We can't really underestimate these type of abilities because the cooldown reduction on a really powerful skill on your team is really, really strong. He has a 3-turn cleanse with the heal and a shield, which is solid, right? Which is solid. This is not a bad move. It's not like underpowered or anything like that. It's just a solid move. Healing with shields on a 3-turn cleanse. Looks good. And then his A3 has a chance of increasing duration of enemy debuffs. So it's basically a debuff extender. And he has a chance, and then 100% chance of increasing the duration of all ally buffs. So a buff extender and a debuff extender. And then a turn meter fill here. The problem is, I think on a 4-turn, it's not as enticing. If this was on a 3-turn, I would say this would be really, really solid. His passive effects here. Turn meter effects don't really affect this champion to its fullest. It's 50% effective. Also, he gains a little bit of turn meter and helps your team with turn meter whenever hard CC comes into play. Overall, I mean, he's not a bad champion. I don't think he's a bad fusion or anything. The 3-turn cleanse is definitely useful for a lot of players. But yeah, I haven't found a particular use for him myself, but not a bad champion. Up next, we have Stock. Where's Stock? Stock the Broken. So this guy, again, is a very recent fusion here. Very good poisoner, actually. He has double hit here. Increased duration of poison or HP burn. I think he works better as a damage dealer for a solo boss but he does have wave clearing ability. So attacks all enemies twice, instantly activates poison or HP burns, and all continuous heals. Second hit has a 100% chance of destroying each target's max HP by 3%. So destroy max HP condition, then a turn meter fill on a 3-turn cooldown. And then he has an A3 here on a 3-turn cooldown. He's going to be an AoE, places 2 poisons. This is the big one. If any targets are under HP burn debuff, places 3 poisons and a weaken, and then he also places continuous heals, no matter what. The problem is here, you want somebody to set him up by placing HP burn, and then you get some real value from this guy, and then he can actually do some real crazy stuff, right? But you know, honestly, yeah, like he's not as good as Theodore in terms of like soloing, you know, Dragon, for example, just because Theodore brings some turn meter stuff and some increased speed, which helps him speed up, recover, place more stuff. So then, you know, waves go down faster. So Stock doesn't really have that. Stock's more of a team support, team enabling champion, as opposed to like a, you know, more of a carry that Theodore is, where he can provide increased speed and decreased speed and turn meter stuff, but still a great champion overall. Up next we have Karugar. It's actually a very decent champion, very decent support champion. He's bringing an A1 heal. He's got an A2. He's got a turn meter fill. It's a big turn meter fill, guys, 30%, and then he has a cleanse as well. And then his A3 brings an ally protection and strengthen on a 3-turn cooldown. His passive's good. It's kind of just boosting resistance, boosting defense under ally protection. His kit's solid. I think this, you know, he can be used as a booster. He can be a cleanse plus booster. And then he brings some, you know, relevant buffs for things like Hydra, Clan Boss, you know, stuff like that. And an A1 heal. Decent champion. I think he needs a little bit more in his kit to be like, you know, top tier. Maybe if he had like a single target revive or something like that, or maybe like a shield here in addition. This move is kind of bland. This move is good. This move's kind of bland. This move's kind of bland, right? So not a bad champion. It's probably going to be really good if you're starting out in the game, but less so as you enter the late or end game. We're going to head into the Void champions here. First, we got the Gurgo and the Olgar. Very, very good champion, especially after his buffs. He brings the very relevant speed in arena battles. Great pick for live arena now. Mainly because he has a strip and freeze, and then he has a hit here that goes decreased defense. His passive means that he doesn't lose damage because of the freeze, because usually when you hit frozen champions, they take less damage. And it means your team doesn't take, doesn't do less damage as well. So his freeze is not a negative basically, but it's not positive in terms of net. It's just not negative anymore. But good champion overall, also a little bit annoying because he has a chance to freeze people when he gets hit. And that actually happens quite a bit. So you can build him as a damage dealer, as a debuffer as well. Great pick in live arena nowadays. And then we have Diamant Copper Coin. I haven't really found a particular use case for this guy. He has increased duration of ally buff. So he's a 3-turn buff extender with the turn meter fill. And then he places 3 intercept stacks. I imagine this is very unique because we don't have too many champions that can place intercept. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting set of buffs here. And then he has, of course, the, you know, buff extender with a turn meter fill. He has an AoE here, AoE heal. And then he has a passive here that converts, basically flips debuffs into buffs for your team. The problem is it's not 100%, which is, I think that's not necessary. You just give him 100%. Why not, right? But it's a passive ability that, you know, benefits your team. It's like a soft cleanse and it's a soft buff. Decent champion, great base speed. But yeah, not particularly crazy use right now. But you think that this guy probably has some use case potentially working into some teams. Lastly, guys, we have a Skinwalker faction boost as well. So we're gonna take a look here. We got sorry, not Lurichka. We have Boland up for grabs, faction unity champion. He's actually pretty good, bringing the AoE decreased defense. It's going to be a double hit, and then he brings a AoE stun as well. Once he has boosts from his faction allies, also has a chance. It's going to be a strip and stun, so similar to like Odin, for example. Brings a lot of turn meter stuff. Also brings speed in all battles. He's actually a good one, a good faction unity champion. I did do a playtest on him. But yeah, he didn't get as much love. He has a good faction as well with the Skinwalkers. Definitely can make something work. But yeah, he's a good champion overall, I think. After that, we have the Owl Gwendolyn here. Very good, big value surge here in Chimera, bringing the A1 buff extenders. Debuff extenders. The debuff extenders working really, really well in places like Chimera. Also brings decreased speed and leech, decreased accuracy against the Chimera, which is really, really good. Gwendolyn's actually good against Hydra as well. But her value definitely went up when Chimera came, and then it brings increased accuracy again versus the Chimera. She does a little bit of damage boosting from his passive, converting accuracy into basically crit damage. Although she's not an insane damage dealer, she does pitch in a bit of damage. I wouldn't focus too heavily on her damage. Up next, we have Mighty Uko, one of the better fusions of all time. AoE decreased attack, AoE double hit with the strip and the block buffs. Very good. Can be used for Hydra in a pinch, but not necessarily 100% efficient. Also brings the team-wide revive. You can use the increased speed if you need to. You don't necessarily need to use the revive all the time. Great passive as well. It just passively steals stuff. Has a chance to steal stuff. But yeah, so yeah, very, very strong, annoying champion back in the day as well. Speed in all battles as well. So Mighty Uko will be up for grabs. Next up, we have Ragash. So Ragash, great spirit-based damage dealer. He's defense-based, which is also interesting as well. He can self-buff himself with the increased defense on the A1. He has an AoE full stun, which is really interesting, and he deals damage as well. And then he has a team buff, strengthen, increased speed, and then perfect veil on himself. He's good. He can play pretty well in live arena, for example, because he can increase his own damage. The problem with him is that he doesn't do enough damage, to be honest. He probably needed this ability to also ignore defense, which is pretty cool. Yes, he places decreased defense, and it also has a chance to stun, but you know, it's not as good as just straight up ignoring defense and then maybe placing a stun. Maybe he could place decreased defense and then ignore defense. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, he does have versatility here with the stun as well. He's a good champion, defense in all battles, aura, but there's better nukers nowadays. But still a very, very good champion. Up next, we have Sun Wukong here. One of the best free login champions of all time for sure. He did come with the promo code Monkey King. Not 100% sure if that still works. But yeah, Sun Wukong here with the A1 stun, A2 nuke, single target nuke. You basically use this against the lowest HP target and then let the splash damage kill the enemy team. Also brings some utility here with the strip and block buffs on the 3-turn cooldown. And the best thing, maybe the best thing about him is his passive. Keeps him alive, comes back every 3 turns with full turn meter. He's a huge threat when this happens and you're not ready for it. And if his A2 is ready, and then he brings a really good speed in all battles. It's great to see the speed in all battles when you have damage dealers as well. Good base attack, so it's easy to scale up. He deals insane amounts of damage. Great champion overall. As for the voids here, we got Lurus, the Proud. You know, he's still very good. He's sneaky good. His base attack is low, but that's made up because he has the passive that increases damage when he's damaged. He's also basically uncontrollable when his skills are, you know, off cooldown, for example. But I think when Sun Wukong came into the meta and Sun Wukong brought the block buffs, it made his unkillable buff a little bit less good. But Lurus still pounds. He has the double hit AoEs. He still hits really, really nice. Still a decent champion. Good for speed runs, good for a lot of wave clearing and all that. So it's definitely a hype, still a hype pick if you pick him up. Last but not least, we have the Firefox here to Meia. Great champion, doesn't get talked about too much here. A1 decreased defense, bringing the HP burn and stun on a 3-turn cooldown, and then also bringing a single target smack. She's really good. She's actually used to empower Marius, which is probably the biggest thing about her right now. She's a good champ, but because the fact she is used to empower Marius, it does make her, you know, expendable because Marius is that much better than her. In my opinion. She has a weird interaction with her HP burn where it bypasses Poison Cloud as well. So if you guys didn't know, if you use this ability against, it's a hit. If you use this ability against the Hydras and they have Poison Cloud out, the HP burn actually still applies as if this was a place. I think that's probably something wrong. There's got to be something wrong with the coding. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, she has an interesting interaction there as well. So she's going to be up for grabs as well. So guys, I want to make a quick correction here about the order of these events. So the first event that's going to be happening is going to be the Orcs factions first, guys. And then we will have the Skinwalkers. So it's going to go Orcs, Skinwalkers, Lizardmen, and then on day 4, it's going to be Visog. So basically, if you look at the Galen pack here, it's going to start at Orcs, then Skinwalkers, then Lizardmen, then Ogen Tribes. Okay, guys? So a little bit of a misorder on my part in this video, but all the information here is completely relevant. They're all progressive events, 15x. We all kind of know how they work. If you're looking for one specific champion on a 15x, it's about 7%. So it's still a pretty big long shot. If you're going for voids, it's about 20%. So some of the void champions might look a little bit more appealing to you guys if you guys are going for them. Keep in mind that we're going to have a big event, dropping on January 8th. So just in the middle of all these progressive events, so definitely keep an eye on that. Don't waste all your resources on this stuff. If you can, if you need to save it. We don't know exactly what other events are going to be paired up with this. Is it just going to be a naked progressive event? I'm not too sure. Having a quick look at the calendar here, we have the Sand Devil event, which is popping up with some Prism crystals. There's no Prism crystal event happening right now, so that's going to be popping up in the pipeline real soon here, probably for Monday. We'll get some more news on that, but otherwise we don't have any other event lined up. It's likely that they're probably going to try to drain your resources as much as possible before the start of the Alice big event theme drop on the 8th. So like I said, guys, make sure you guys keep in mind, manage your resources accordingly. These progressive events will likely be just bait events for you guys. I think we just look forward to January 8th, see what happens. And then, of course, it's going to line up with 2 of the progressive events. So because like I said, 4 days of progressive events. So 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th. On the 8th is the big Alice drop. It's going to line up with 2 of the progressive events. Maybe you wait for the back half of these events. So the back half would be Lizardmen and Ogen Tribes. Might be worth it. Might be worth your while if you care about double dipping and all that. Also, the end of all these progressive events probably means that there might be a different type of summon event that's going to happen afterwards. That might be related to a fusion, perhaps. Maybe you can double dip in some other events. But yeah, like I said, I would hold on to my resources here unless they gave you something really, really juicy that we don't see right now in the calendar. But that's pretty unlikely considering that, like I said, January 8th is a big content drop. So hold on to your resources, guys, if you can. Anyways, guys, a bit of a long video, but a lot of news to cover here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informative. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching the video and for your time. If you guys like the content, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Would really appreciate that, and hopefully see you guys back in a video soon.